12-13 țări care participă la acest efort. Pentru aceste 12-13 țări sunt un număr de 80-90 de burse totale, în general, iar României revine, în funcție de an, undeva între 7 și 10 burse. Depinde și de calitatea pool-ului de aplicanți din celelalte state, depinde și de calitatea aplicanților noștri, dar în anul cel mai bun, cred că anul trecut, am avut 10 bursieri care au mers în UK la școli de prestigiu. Eu nu o să vă țin o prelegere prea lungă, dar o să vă spun câțiva parametri importanți. Primul lucru pe care trebuie să-l înțelegeți în ceea ce înseamnă șansa pe care ați putea avea de bursă este că se aplică principiul responsabilizării și responsabilității. Un elev de 16 ani în Marea Britanie este deja destul de independent, se preocupă singur, întreabă singur, completează aplicația singur, își obține singur foile, matricole și celelalte documente necesare. De aceea, situații cum am avut, din fericire au fost excepții, dar situații cum am avut anul trecut, de părinte care ține în brațe dosarul copilului și intră împreună cu el pe ușă spunând: noi aplicăm pentru bursă. Da? Sperăm să fie niște situații izolate și să sperăm să nu avem anul ăsta așa ceva. Deci, principiul independenței este unul foarte important. De asemenea, evident, cei care își fac temele vor avea un mic punct de diferențiere asupra altora. Da? Când eu am aplicat pentru bursa asta în 1998, nu exista ce există acum. Aveți internet, aveți liste, aveți hyperlinks, aveți videouri, aveți toată informația care o puteți accesa, doar să aveți răbdare să o citiți, să o parcurgeți. Când eu am aplicat, era doar o bibliotecă britanică și informația era în analogic. Da? Nu existau linkuri de internet și așa mai departe. Deci aveți un avantaj fantastic și ar trebui să-l folosiți așa cum se cuvine. De asemenea, cred că nu trebuie să vă mai spun că principiul copy-paste nu a ajutat pe nimeni. Deci, dacă cineva vă spune că vă învață ei cum să vă scrieți eseul de motivație sau ceva, că știu ei un model mai bun decât altele, fugiți mâncând pământul, pentru că cele mai de succes esee sunt cele originale, cele care atrag atenția. Gândiți-vă că comisia va fi pusă în situația de a citi 100 și ceva de dosare, cam atâta sunt, și voi din acea 100 de dosare trebuie să spuneți sau să veniți cu ceva elemente ca să captați atenția. Acum vreau să vă spun câteva lucruri despre pregătirea unei aplicații bune. Pregătirea unei aplicații bune necesită, din păcate, și niște eforturi de a obține niște documente. Unul dintre cele mai importante documente este cel cu foaia matricolă, pe care vă îndemnăm să-l obțineți cât mai aproape de momentul în care veți avea cât de multe note și pe trimestru care abia a început, pe semestru care abia a început. Nu trebuie completată cu toate mediile, dacă nu le aveți în momentul în care depuneți, însă trebuie completat cu notele pe care le aveți la momentul respectiv. Deci unde nu aveți medie închisă, puneți notele. De asemenea, sunt necesare niște documente legate de veniturile părinților, certificate prin um, o adresă de la angajator semnată și ștampilată. Pe urmă, mai sunt necesare documente legate de diferite situații speciale. De exemplu, dacă avem copii care sunt în grija unui singur părinte, acolo trebuie să ne asigurăm care este tutorele legal, pentru că este o problemă foarte importantă și noi nu putem face nimic fără acordul ambilor tutori legali, acolo unde există. Deci, de exemplu, am avut situații de mamă care vrea să-și trimită copilul la bursă, tatăl în proces de divorț care se opunea. Lucrurile astea nu țin, pentru că e nevoie de acordul ambilor părinți acolo unde nu există, în urma unei hotărâri a instanței, un singur tutor legal. De asemenea, trebuie să petreceți un timp suficient ca să vă gândiți la ce ar putea să fie unic în prezentarea voastră, ce ar putea să fie unic în story-ul vostru, ce ar putea să fie de interes în povestea pe care aveți, astfel încât eseul pe care îl scrieți, eseul de motivație, să fie unul foarte puternic. Căutăm oameni care au o performanță academică foarte înaltă, pentru că vorbim de o bursă totuși academică. Școlile de acolo renunță la o sumă de foarte multe mii de lire sterline pe care ar putea obține pentru un loc plătit și îl acordă unui bursier în ideea că în felul ăsta va avea pe cineva dintr-o cultură interesantă, nouă, pentru că multiculturalismul este o valoare în sine în Marea Britanie și de asemenea ei fac acest lucru țintind performări academici. Dar o bună jumătate din ceea ce se întâmplă într-o școală britanică nu e deloc academic. Este ceva personal. Este vorba de emoții, este vorba de cluburi de sport, de tot fel de sporturi, este vorba de cluburi de interes, de la politică la filatelie și de la acel Duke of Edinburgh Awards până la RAF. Deci sunt foarte multe zone și acolo unde a existat un eșec, se întâmplă foarte rar, dar mai sunt și astfel de situații, este acolo în care avem singuratici care cumva nu sunt pescuiți în procesul de selecție și ajung acolo într-un loc care este fundamental diferit de al nostru. Deci trebuie să vă gândiți că nu mergeți și din păcate cam asta este percepția cu școlile britanice, că ajungi într-un loc gen Harry Potter cu clădiri vechi și tot este minunat, ca un fel de școală de vrăjitorie Hogwarts. Realitatea este mai prozaică. În cele mai multe școli britanice ajungi de fapt într-un internat, un internat care poate să aibă 40 de elevi, poate să aibă până la 80 de elevi și un internat care este ierarhizat, este structurat. De exemplu, dacă începi clasa 11, e foarte posibil acel house, acel internat, acel boarding school, da? Să fie condus de un elev de clasa 12 care are dreptul de a da ordine elevilor din clasele mai mici. Da? Ceea ce poate să fie un concept destul de interesant pentru ceea ce se întâmplă în liceele noastre, mai ales acolo unde este o laxitate. De asemenea, o școală britanică privată înseamnă o disciplină destul de, n-aș zice chiar cazonă, că nu mai este ce a fost acum 20 de ani, dar totuși o disciplină destul de bine structurată. Poate să însemne că dacă nu ești prefect, deci dacă nu ești unul din cei 4 sau 5 conducători ai unui internat, nu ai voie, de exemplu, să calci pe peluză, pe iarbă, da? Și să constați că pe iarbă merg doar cei care conduc internatul plus profesori. Poate să însemne disciplina că din diferite motive istorice ai o uniformă care este standard și uneori o uniformă de, nu știu, călugări benedictini sau o uniformă din asta bufantă gen secolul XIII sau orice altceva. Deci fiecare școală are tipicul ei. Și atunci, când te gândești dacă vrei sau nu o bursă, trebuie să te gândești dacă poți să te integrezi într-o nouă realitate. De asemenea, ca să ai succes, trebuie să-ți, nu neapărat că trebuie să-ți închei, dar trebuie să-ți procesezi toate lucrurile care sunt în pending, care sunt în flux, să zic, în țară. Da? Deci nu poți să mergi acolo dacă ai o relație foarte apropiată cu un boyfriend și vei vrea să-l suni 2 ore pe zi, să stai pe WhatsApp, pentru că nu vei avea efectiv timp. Da? Dacă ești de asemenea copilul lui mama și al lui tata, iarăși, părinții se sună acolo de adolescenți, poate de 2, de 3 ori pe săptămână, se sună așa, un sfert de oră, jumătate de oră și așa mai departe. Sunt și studenți străini care aleg, de exemplu, să nu se întoarcă în prima vacanță de Crăciun, aleg să călătorească, aleg să meargă într-o familie britanică, aleg să-și adâncească legăturile cu cei de acolo. Deci, când evaluați un pic ce înseamnă pentru voi o bursă, gândiți-vă și la aspectele favorabile, dar gândiți-vă și la aspectele de ajustare pe care va trebui să le parcurgeți. Acum, asta a fost un fel de background. Acum o să vă dau în mare ce înseamnă pașii de aplicație. Deci pașii de aplicație înseamnă în primul rând să îți faci un portofoliu, să-ți evaluezi lucrurile, să ți le pui pe hârtie. Apropo, portofoliu nu înseamnă în accepțiunea britanică să-mi fac un dosar cu toate diplomele, începând cu diploma din clasa 5-a de la concursul de desen. Da? Ei trebuie să fiți selectivi, mai ales dacă aveți multe diplome și așa mai departe. Trebuie să arătați și o personalitate pe lângă personalitatea academică. Deci alegeți cele mai relevante lucruri cu care să vă prezentați și nu e neapărat, cum să spun, convingătoare, cum mai avem an de an se întâmplă, să mai avem câte un dosar de diplome doldora, da? Începând cu clasa a 3-a, a 5-a, a 7-a, la modul mențiune a unui concurs regional de nu știu ce. Da? Nu. Le alegeți pe cele mai relevante. Da? Le alegeți olimpiadele naționale, le alegeți concursurile de instrument, mai ales dacă aveți o performanță foarte bună și așa mai departe. Bun, acum vreau să vă spun câte ceva despre pașii de a aplica. Deci, în primul rând, trebuie să vă familiarizați cu formularistica, care nu e nici exagerat de stufoasă, ecrazantă, dar nu e nici simplă. Deci trebuie să parcurgeți cam ce documente ar trebui. De asemenea, trebuie să faceți niște demersuri foarte rapide pentru a obține acea foaie matricolă și restul de documente care necesită intervenția altora. Trebuie să știți că va trebui să aveți și 3 recomandări olografe în plic închis sigilat de la 3 profesori diferiți. Un profesor în principal care să fie dirigintele de preferință, un profesor de, să zic, umane, pe latura de umane și un profesor pe latura de științe sau de matematică pentru a acoperi întreaga panoplie. Nu e neapărat obligatoriu peste tot să fie la fel, dar în general cam asta se cere. După care Toate formularele trebuie puse cap la cap și voi va trebui să ne trimiteți un singur formular scanat într-o primă etapă cu tot ceea ce vi se cere. Mai există și niște cerințe informale, dar nu mai puțin importante, să vă strângeți niște 10, 12, maximum 15 fotografii personale care își vă prezintă cel mai bine în diferite situații. De ce? Pentru că o școală britanică, cum v-am spus, nu e doar o zonă academică, ci încearcă să vă înțeleagă și din punct de vedere social. Și cu toate elementele astea se depune acest dosar. Cred că trebuia să spun lucrul ăsta din start, dar mă văd nevoit an de an să precizez că e pe bune această selecție. Adică ce înseamnă că e pe bune? Înseamnă că am primit telefoane de la foarte mulți oameni. Toți părinții trebuie să înțeleagă că am dat mie telefon, de fapt scad șansele, nu cresc șansele odraslelor pe care vreți să le ajutați. Da? Și asta vă spun direct. De asemenea, trebuie să știți că decizia finală, noi nu facem decât un fel de recomandare într-o etapă absolut preliminară, dar decizia finală este în mâna britanicilor, adică va fi în mâna cui? În principal, într-o comisie de 2 sau 3 oameni, care fiecare sunt pedagogi cu între 15 și 40 de ani de experiență în școli britanice. Mulți dintre ei directori adjuncți, șefi de, să zic, head of English, head of maths, head of ceva. Da? Deci vorbim de niște profesori britanici din cele mai prestigioase școli, pentru că aici vorbim de cele mai prestigioase 150 de licee și ei iau deciziile finale. Deci poate să fie și, nu știu, copilul nu știu cărui ministru sau sindicalist, cum am mai avut, da? El va fi tratat absolut în mod egal cu ceilalți. Și nu vă ajută în niciun fel să cereți întâlniri față în față. Noi preferăm să avem materialul scris. Deci preferăm să avem toată informația scrisă și vă ajutați mai mult petrecând timpul ăla în care ori ne dați 10-15 telefoane ca să vă lămuriți pe fiecare secțiune și așa mai departe, ori încercați să intrați în contact cu noi, uneori contact absolut inutil. Deci v-ați face un serviciu mult mai mare investind timpul ăla în calitatea eseului personal, calitatea prezentării și mai ales un mic truc pe care vi-l spun tuturor, deci iarăși informația asta este înregistrată, va fi accesibilă tuturor celor care doresc bursa asta. Încercați să nu lăsați niciun câmp necompletat în această aplicație. Colega mea, Constantin Elena, care mă ajută, este Program Officer pe acest proiect, v-a pus pe chat un link, vi-l citesc, https://ținedenoi.ro burse academice / l-aveți pe chat. Deci pe site-ul nostru Ține de Noi aveți secțiunea burse și acolo aveți absolut toate explicațiile, toate formularele, toate ideile, toate link-urile. Aveți și un document ce înseamnă HMC. HMC-ul, poate că ar fi trebuit iarăși să spun de la început, este noi nu avem o astfel de structură în România decât poate Alianța Colegilor Centenare, cei care sunteți, să zic, cât de cât familiarizați cu asta. Deci, HMC-ul, care se traduce din Headmasters and Headmistresses Conference, este o asociație, un ONG, care federează toată toate aceste 150 de școli private, toate cele mai prestigioase licee din Marea Britanie și în această structură dau aceste burse în mod federat. Ce înseamnă în mod federat? Înseamnă că nu veți putea exprima preferințe că eu vreau să mă duc la școala X. Da? Va trebui să aveți încredere că există un sistem bine pus la punct, da? Și că în oricare din cele 80 și ceva de școli care participă anual, că ele nu dau bursă în fiecare an, unele dau bursă, de exemplu, în fiecare al doilea an. Deci trebuie să aveți încredere că în oricare din acele 80 de licee în care ați putea teoretic ajunge, de la insula Man până în Scoția și dintre oile din Wales până în Lake District și dintre periferia Londrei până undeva la Aberdeen, da? Deci, sau chiar în Irlanda de Nord, sau uneori mai există și o școală în Elveția, dacă nu mă înșală memoria. Deci trebuie să aveți încredere că în oricare dintre aceste școli britanice nimeriți ați câștigat jackpot-ul. În ce sens? În sensul în care veniți dintr-un sistem de educație de unde puțin pătrund, să zic, la școlile, la cele mai faimoase școli și universități ale lumii, la un sistem unde aveți cam o șansă din 4 să ajungeți la o universitate extrem de prestigioasă pe plan mondial, adică din top 200-300 pe plan mondial. Și asta nu e puțin lucru. Deci, ce faceți, de fapt, este, fără să vă dați seama, prin intermediul unei astfel de burse de 2 ani, vă săltați enorm șansa de a ajunge undeva în primele 200-300 de universități ale lumii. Ok. Nu știu dacă mă auziți bine. Toată lumea mă poate auzi, poate îmi puteți pune pe chat, da? Vă mă auziți?
Da, da.
Ok, că sunt colegi care semnalează. Ok. Cineva sugerează cu connect audio. Văd mai multe dauri, deci am să continui. Deși în anii anteriori existau burse de un singur an, începând de acum 3 ani, bursele sunt pentru 2 ani. Nu înseamnă că după primul an, adică după clasa 11, este o evaluare, dar 95% din cazuri se reînnoiește bursa pentru clasa 12. Și ce mai înseamnă acest lucru? Înseamnă că, practic, cei mai mulți dintre studenții pe care îi avem sunt studenți academic foarte, foarte buni și sunt studenți care după aceea progresează la cele mai bune universități. I would like to just salute Jonathan Wilhelmstow. Jonathan, can you hear us?
I can, thank you.
Okay. I will be a little while longer. I will go on for, but then I will, of course, pass the baton, and we are very grateful that you could join us this evening. Deci o să vă spun în românește câteva lucruri. Jonathan este cel care conduce această schemă de burse pentru toate cele 13 țări. Jonathan a preluat conducerea comitetului de organizare a acestor burse și avem șansa să le întrebăm direct anumite lucruri, evident în engleză, dacă putem să facem treaba asta. Elena, doar vreau să-ți dau un minut sau două posibilitatea să te prezinți sau 3 minute și să spui dacă crezi că am uitat ceva.
Scuze, nu pot să intervin chiar acum, pentru că sunt pe drum, dar vă ascult și intervin dacă aveți nevoie de completările mele.
Nu poți să intervii acum. Ok, atunci după Jonathan. Jonathan, I have given a kind of a bread and butter description of and a realistic description of where things stand with the scholarship. I have tried to encourage people to think very realistically about what it means to spend 2 years abroad in a different country, and what it means to integrate socially as well as academically. And I have also tried to give them a picture of the expectations that you have. For example, I have noticed over the years that you are requiring 16-year-olds to be far more independent than perhaps some of them are in this part of the world. You expect them to present their ideas. You expect them to not come with their moms and dads either in preparing the application or the interviews or whatever. They should be proactive. And also I have tried to give a little bit of a background on the inner social structure in British schools. It was certainly shocking for me as a scholar that there was a hierarchy of students, and you can have somebody in upper 6, equivalent of the 12th grade over here, essentially being your boss if you are in a house. And of course you must respect if he's a house prefect or something else, or if the school has uniforms and your high school in Romania doesn't have uniforms. Of course, there are all these minutiae that you need to be aware of, and there is a structure that needs to be respected and very quickly integrated in. And I have also cautioned them that I don't believe you are looking, as we have some scholars that are sending us a binder full of just academic diplomas starting with 5th grade. It's certainly my observation that you are looking for all-rounders rather than just people who excel academically and send us every last diploma since middle school that they have. Now, just addressing the audience, one thing that maybe I wasn't so focused on is to say that what I have noticed over the years is that there is exceptional effort being made to meet the needs and talents of scholars. So wherever there is somebody that is accepted for this scholarship and has a talent or an inclination, say he's very good in music, then he will be placed in a school that has a very good music department. If he is, I was more theatrical, and I spoke about my love of Shakespeare, etc. during my interview, and I found out that I was placed in a school. I was very lucky in a school near London. So in fact, I got to see a lot of those plays by Shakespeare at the Globe Theatre, etc. So I have noticed that there are people with specific talents that are being sent to specific places, and there's a great deal of experience that people like Jonathan are acquiring over the years and in speaking with their colleagues from other schools, so that what I have mentioned, Jonathan, to them is that one peculiarity is that they are not able to select in any way the schools, but just have to trust in the system that, in fact, you are making the best possible effort once you are deciding that they are worthy scholars and that they are scholars that are deserving of a scholarship, that they will be then placed in the best appropriate school for each individual need. And of course, this matching is very complex because you have 80 or 90 places, of which anywhere between 7 and 10 places might be Romanian. And I noticed, I mentioned there are 12, 13 countries, depending on the year, participating in the scheme. So you have a very complicating mix and match. So with that, I pass the microphone, and apologies if I have gone on for a bit.
Okay, and I'm delighted to meet everybody today, just to say hello and to field some of your questions. I would just follow what Mr. Oroshano has said about the scholarship program, in that he's quite right. We will actually decide where our full scholars will be placed, because we know what the schools are looking for, we know what the school's strengths are, and in some cases, schools will ask for a particular gender. They may ask for a girl, or another school may ask for a boy. So there are a lot of parameters that we need to get right. There are really two scholarship programs that run in parallel. One is the full scholarship program, where the school provides everything for you and you don't have to pay any tuition fees. There is a second parallel program, which is the reduced fee program. And I mention it as separate from the full scholarship program because there is an element of choice, in the sense that you can choose up to 4 schools that you would want to apply for. But I need to explain how the reduced fee scholarship program works. Anybody whose family income exceeds a certain figure, in this case it's £30,000, then I'm afraid you can only apply for a reduced fee scholarship, and that's not a problem. If, however, you were unsuccessful at being selected as a full scholar through our selection process, but we thought you were a very strong candidate and therefore treat you as a reserve, then all reserves are offered the opportunity to apply for a reduced fee scholarship. So that in a sense, there are 2 ways into it. But primarily, the scholarship program that Mr. Oroshano has been talking about has been the full scholarship program, where it costs you nothing for tuition fees. With the reduced fee program, you make a contribution towards the fees, and it's normally about 25%. And if we're talking about money, we're talking between £6,000 and £11,000. It depends on the school. So I hope that hasn't clouded the issue, Rasan. I hope that's expanded it.
Yes, I believe so. Would you like to say a few things by way of background? What are the typical issues when people are adapting to the British system that you have noticed in your experience over the years?
Yes, I can. It's a lot of the information is in the documents that are available for you to read before you consider applying. But I would say that all the schools that you are going to are boarding schools. So you will live in the school, you will live in a boarding house, and you will live in a community. and the community in the boarding house can range from maybe 10 or 15 students to about 60 or 70. So it depends which school you go to. But in order for these schools to operate effectively, they have to have rules. And there are some quite important rules which you need to observe. If you find that, if you think that really you can't agree to work to the rules of a school, then you should not consider applying. It is a very different experience probably to the experience that you have at your school. So sometimes students have a little bit of difficulty adapting to a rules-based regime in the school. It's not a big problem, but it's something you need to be aware of. The other thing that I would say is you really do need to have a spirit of adventure and a desire to be independent when you go to these schools. It quite often, when it doesn't work very well, is people who are continually phoning home and making contact with their families rather than establishing new friendships in the school. So you need to be independent and you need to be self-reliant. So we're looking for people with initiative and ability to adapt quickly when they get to their new schools. Razvan, anything else you would like me to suggest?
I would like you to give an idea of the typical week, say, program, because it might surprise people that half of the activities are in fact something else than academic. Over here, we tend to have just high school, just like subjects, and then people go home and that's school.
Yes, I will. In some countries where we interview, students will attend music school outside their own school. They may go to their sports club outside the hours of their school. In the UK, all this is provided within the school itself. So you will have a range of opportunities in order to exploit your skills, exploit your interests. Now, so in other words, the way the day is normally structured is that you will have lessons in the morning, throughout the morning. You will then have lunch. Then, depending on which term we're talking about, you will then go off and play games or involve yourself in some activity that the school provides. And then towards the end of the day, that you will then go back to lessons and have some more lessons. After those lessons, you will have your tea. And then after tea, there may be a chapel service. And I'll come to that because that's another important aspect. And then after that, there's normally time to do your homework. And this is a formal period of time when you will be expected to do your work. So it won't be a time when you can go off and talk to your friends and play. It will be a time when you're expected to work. And then normally around a time like 9 o'clock, the day ends, and that's when you can socialize with your friends a little bit more in the evening. I mentioned something called a religious service, a chapel service. Very occasionally someone complains and says, I'm not interested in attending chapel, or I'm not interested in attending a meeting where there may be a religious theme to it. What I would say to you is this is part of the life, this is part of the experience, and it's an important one because it's an experience where students come together and they come together with the teachers, and therefore if you find that you can't adapt to a period of the day where there may be a service or there may be a meeting, then it's probably not a good idea to consider a scholarship, because you need to be adaptable and understand that the school has its own way of doing things, and it's a valuable exercise because everybody comes together. Razvan, anything else you would like me to say?
I would like to open it up for questions. And I apologize about cutting my own video, but the link is very poor and I'd rather have the sound on. So please, you have a chance to ask questions direct to Jonathan Wolfenstone. He's certainly probably one of the most experienced folks in all the extended team behind this program. He's leading this program. So any questions that you might have at this stage, especially I would encourage you to think of questions that are maybe not applicable to your specific situation, but might be applicable to more people.
Would anyone else like to ask me a question? I'm very happy to answer it.
May I ask you something, please?
Please do.
Good evening, firstly. I have only one and a short question, more exactly. Are we getting the chance to meet people that also joined the school thanks to this program?
If we used to hold an orientation program where all the scholars came together. That won't be possible now. And so when you arrive in the UK, if you are chosen for a scholarship, you will go directly to your school. So the only person that you were likely to meet who is also on the program is either somebody else who's been placed in that school, if the school is taking more than one scholar, or if you meet somebody who was put in that school the previous year, because as you know, the period of the scholarship lasts for 2 years. So unfortunately, there isn't this opportunity to have a big meeting. However, that said, normally I think that there is some kind of orientation that is run locally in Romania, but I need to have Mr. Orșanu's confirmation of this, where the students who have been selected to go for the scholarship in the UK will meet together for some advice before they travel. But I would need confirmation of that. Razvan?
What I would say is that if we have people from Romania placed in the same school, we try to, even from other years, we try to put them in contact.
Right.
Typically this is very easy now with email, etc. And we will also try to put the people that are joining together in the scholarship in contact. There is also a director of admissions or a head teacher, depending on the school, and that person is also a very good point of contact with respect to the particulars of any school. And it's really important to understand that even though HMC federates all of these schools, they each have their own independent way of doing it. So for some schools, you might have an application form, or they might ask for specific things to be sent. You need to speak to specific people. So even if you are applied and you are a scholar confirmed, you still have to work with the school and meet all their criteria and fit in.
I think that's a very important point, that each one of these schools is different and they will do things in their own way. And so one person who goes to one school will have a different experience to somebody who goes to another school.
May I ask a question?
Yes, please.
At the schools we're assigned to, may we choose the subjects that we're gonna learn?
Of course, yes. And as you know, you will be studying a large number of subjects in Romania in your school. You will choose fewer subjects when you study in the United Kingdom, but you study those subjects to greater depth.
Okay, thank you.
And that will be that normally that will provide you with qualifications after 2 years, which should allow you to matriculate into universities. There may be a nostrification process that you have to go through if you want to come back to Romania and go to university in Romania, where they just have to convert the qualifications that you've received in the United Kingdom to something that they understand.
I understand. Thank you.
I have a question.
Yes.
I read on the condition of participation. I need to have between 16 or 17 years and 6 months.
Yes.
In this date I have 17 years and 9 months. Is this a problem?
It would be a problem. You would be too old to participate. We are quite strict on the age range. If it's just a matter of days outside the age range, then we are flexible. But in your case, we're talking about being 3 months too old, and you would not be eligible. I'm sorry.
Can I ask another question?
Yes.
After the scholarships are given out, what's exactly the aftermath?
Can you repeat that, please? Lofty?
Sorry, I couldn't understand.
Yes. Could you repeat the question, please?
After the scholarships are given out, what's exactly the aftermath?
What exactly
is the aftermath? Or what's
right.
going to happen?
Yes, I understand. Okay. Yes. Once the scholarships are awarded, then you will make contact with your school. As Mr. Oroshano made out, it's really important because they will be providing you with all the information that you need, and they will have to provide you also with the document that you need in order to apply for your visa. So in effect, really, once the scholarship is awarded and you know that you have received a scholarship, then your main channel of contact is between you and the school.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I have a question as well. In school, in this school program, we have the opportunity to meet new people in another country, but outside of school, how are we, or are we allowed to travel in the UK? Are there restrictions or something?
Right. Now, when you say outside school, do you mean in the holiday period?
Weekends and and
because I think yes, please.
No, I wanted to say just weekends and holidays.
Right. The school has a duty of care to you, and so at weekends you may actually be able to request permission in order to go into the town if you're close to a town. But the school would need to know where you are, because the school has effectively responsibility for you. They act in the role of parents because your parents aren't in the country and you're not living with your parents. So you don't have the same freedom to travel that you might have in your own, if you're living with your parents and attending your school in Romania. I think what you also suggested is, would you like to know what the periods are when you are no longer in school? Because I think it's important to realize that during the term, in some schools, all schools will have a holiday in the middle of the term called half term. And during half term, the schools will close. So you will be expected to either travel home and stay with your family for a period, or you will be expected to stay with a guardian or somebody who, with the agreement of the school, your family know and your family are quite content with you to stay with them. Some schools have what are called exeat weekends. And in some schools, the schools do close during those exeat weekends, but it depends very much on, it differs rather from one school to another. And so in a sense, I can't give you a definite answer until I know which school you're going to, if you're a successful scholar.
Thanks for the answer.
Does that help?
Yeah, that's clear. It's quite a lot.
I mean, I think it highlights the fact that if you get a scholarship through HMC projects and you come to study in the UK, you're not necessarily just talking about travel to the school and home again, travel to the school at the beginning of the term and then travel home again at the end of the term, because there is this half-term period. And in the first term, the autumn term, that can be quite long. It can be up to 2 weeks long. And in that case, we would normally encourage our students to consider going home for that period to meet their family and then to come back to school for the second half of that first term.
May I ask another question?
Of course.
At the end of high school in Romania, we have baccalaureate. And are we going to have the baccalaureate in Romania, or are we going to have an exam in?
No, you will have the exam in the UK. You will take the national examinations for the UK, because don't forget, you've chosen fewer subjects. So you've been studying for a different type of qualification. So the point I was making earlier on was that if you decide to go back and study in Romania, maybe somewhere like Cluj or Bucharest, then you are likely to have to demonstrate to the university that the subjects, that the examination qualifications that you've got are valid for entry into a Romanian university. In some countries where we operate, they do insist that some of the national exams are also taken, but those will be taken when you return back to your country. There isn't normally a facility for taking those in the UK. Does that explain?
Yeah, I understand. Thank you.
May I ask you a question?
Yes, please. The connection is not very good, so I'll try my best.
I'm sorry. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, but you're breaking up. I hear you. You're breaking up.
Let me solve this real quick and then I'll ask a question.
Betty, I'm sorry, I can't hear. The connection is too bad.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now.
Do you hear me well or?
Off.
No, I'm sorry. If you turn your, Betty, if you turn your video off, perhaps I can hear you.
Are you able to hear now?
A little bit.
A little bit, okay. I'm currently studying French in private. Will I be able to continue studying French at my new school if I get a scholarship?
Will you be able to complete
I think she was referring to her second language as it being French, and if she could continue studying it.
Yes. If you're right, if you speak a second language and you want to study that language in school, provided that it's not a language like Russian, or German is not very common now in schools, unfortunately. But if it's French, there's a very high likelihood that the school will allow you to study French. Now, if you remember, Mr. Oroshanu said that we will try our best to fit you to the right school if you're successful as a scholar. One of the things that we try very hard to get right is to make sure that the school teaches the subjects that you have chosen to study. So on the application form, we ask you to say which subjects you would be interested in studying if you got a scholarship to come to the UK. And we take that information and try and make sure that the school that you go to provides teaching in those subjects. Do you understand?
Yes, I understood. Thank you.
Okay.
I have another question.
Yes.
Is that if we already have friends, let's say in the city that the school is in, may we go out on the weekends, just go out in the city, not outside or traveling or?
I couldn't give a definite answer to that because it's something that you would have to discuss with the school if you wanted to meet up with friends. But I go back to the point I said earlier, the school's primary concern is that you are safe and that you're not put at any risk. The UK is a very safe country. So I don't want to give the impression that, that you are at risk. But that said, the school wants to make sure that its responsibility, like a parent, is carried out effectively. So again, it's something you would have to discuss with your school. Okay?
Yes, I understand.
Are there any other questions?
I have a question. We will continue to study our Romanian at the school?
You won't have the opportunity to study Romanian in the school because no one will be able to teach it. However, it's possible that you could talk to the Modern Languages Department to see whether they're prepared to support self-study. Okay? But you have to think a little bit about the value of a qualification in your own language. Because if you go to a university and say, here are my qualifications, the university may turn around and say, well, we don't think your Romanian qualification is particularly important because you speak that as your own natural language. And therefore it doesn't necessarily demonstrate how academic you are. So I'm just slightly wary of suggesting that you would take a course, in a self-study course in your own language in a school in the UK.
Another question, I'm sorry. If I know it depends on the school, but are we going to have common rooms or private rooms, like just me in a room, my private?
Yeah, it's a good question. Each sixth former, and you will be going into the sixth form, each sixth former will have their own study room, but you may, and in the first year, you may share that with another student. In most cases, this is where you will sleep as well. So your study area is your bedroom as well. In some schools, you may be lucky enough to have a room to yourself, but it's not very common. What you won't be doing is sleeping in a large dormitory. Okay, the schools understand that you need your space to study. The other thing to remember, of course, is that every school has its own library, and its library is also a good place to study. You may need to just tell somebody that you're going to the library in the evening to do your work there, but that's a good place.
Jonathan, I just, so sorry for interrupting you.
Yes.
I would just recommend that you take a few more questions, and if you're able, stay until 15:15 or at the most 20 past.
Yes.
If there are any more questions, because I am aware we've already taken up the slotted time we agreed on. So if there are any other burning questions, also, Andrei, if you can please also put our connection links on the chat. So our email, our office email, and the scholarship email, and we're also accessible. Thank you very much.
Okay. Are there any more questions?
I would have a question.
Yes.
I was thinking, I don't know if it's really appropriate, but I know we are assigned to a school decided by, that is not decided by us. So what happens if we don't really understand the accent that's been spoken in that area?
Well, don't assume that everybody who is going to teach you is going to be speaking in the local accent. If I was teaching you, you wouldn't know where I came from, because I don't have a regional accent. I don't. I don't think I do anyway. So the case in point, I suppose, is if you were placed in a school in Scotland where there is a very distinctive accent. And what I would say is that our scholars do not have difficulty. They tune into the accent relatively quickly. So it's not something that you should worry about.
Okay, thank you.
Another quick question, if I can.
Yeah.
Will we do more not so advanced English classes?
Right.
Because I assume we won't be able to have the same pace as native speakers.
Right. Sorry, can you explain that again? I thought I didn't quite understand the important point you were making.
I believe that most of us won't be able to keep up with the pace of native speakers English. So will we take less advanced classes for English?
When we interview, we are looking for people who will be able to manage learning in an English-speaking environment. Some schools will provide additional support, English support and learning support for the scholars just for a short period to help them to adjust. Okay, but in most cases, we would try to place somebody who would be able to adapt very quickly to learning in a foreign language.
So just to just interject myself, this varies a lot. I did English A levels in 1 year, and I got a full A. I also won the poetry prize and the debating cup for my year. So we managed to prove that even scholars coming from outside of the school, not being native, they are able to write poetry or learn Shakespeare or debate in a way that was actually, topping the school charts,
I think that's an important point. there are two things I'd like to say. A number of people say they would like to study English in a UK school, a school in the UK. Think carefully about that, because you are signing up to a literature course in most cases, and therefore it's not going to be an extension of your experience of learning English in a school in Romania. The second point that I would say, and unfortunately I haven't got a graph to show you, but I would argue that our scholars all have to work hard, particularly hard, to adapt to learning in an English-speaking environment. And I think because you are making that effort, they continue to make that effort, and it's that continued effort that allows them to adapt quickly. And in the case of Mr. Orofshanu, he did particularly well in a very short space of time with his studies of English, and also was able to demonstrate a broad vocabulary, which is what you require if you are going to be able to debate effectively.
I have one last question. I know there's a fee even if you get the full scholarship of
Yes.
1,250 pounds.
Yes.
So what is that about? Like,
right, the fee is a fee that you pay to HMC projects, not to the school, and it's to cover our administration. So unfortunately we have expenses. I'm not expensive, but we do have expenses.
I understand.
Anyone else would they like to ask a question?
Can I ask another question?
Yes.
I believe most of us have taken a British Council test, and the one like FC, for example. Would this be relevant for us to be admitted in the school if we have taken a test to prove our English level?
Sorry, Betty, I must turn up my volume because I have difficulty catching what you say, and that's not your problem, that's my problem.
Yes,
okay.
There's a British Council test in Romania that is good for every country. Is it better to have it for this program, or it doesn't matter? It's the Cambridge test.
Any qualification that you have which demonstrates how good your English is, it may be useful. But ultimately, I shall be sitting in on an interview with you or with somebody else, and I will be listening very carefully to the quality of the English in the conversation that we're having in an interview, and I will be able to judge quite well your quality of English. But it is useful because that qualification may be helpful to the school to show the school the quality of the English that you have. Okay, so it will do no harm, but it's not essential.
Thank you.
Okay, is there anybody else who would like to ask a question?
Excuse me, I have one.
Yes.
Because it is very important to communicate. Do the scholars that study there from the 9th grade feel superior or make fun of the students with a scholarship?
No, I think my experience is that the scholars actually adapt very quickly and they blend in. And one of the key things I think that is important to say is that when you get to your school, if you are chosen to be a scholar, it's very important to participate in a wide variety of activities, and that means sport, other activities outside the classroom, and also be involved in activities in your boarding house, because in that way you will integrate socially much better. Nobody makes fun of somebody who is their friend. So I would argue that you need to integrate as well as you can.
Thank you.
Does anyone else have a question?
I think we're going to leave it there.
Okay.
Unless there are any last minute burning questions.
Actually, I have one. Are we getting the chance to play any sports in our free time? Like in the weekends, during the sessions after hours?
Yes. You would be encouraged to do that. So suppose, for instance, the school will have a gymnasium, and you may decide to go down with a group of friends and practice basketball, or you may decide to do something else. You may decide to go and do some weight training or kick a football around on the football field. All that is normally encouraged, and the weekend is a very good time to do that. And when I was talking to the last speaker, I said get involved. That's one of the ways in which you can get involved, is by going out with groups and enjoying playing with them, playing sport with them.
Well, thank you very much.
So we'll have a gym. We can go.
Yes, nearly all schools will have a gymnasium. Yes, I can't guarantee every school will have a swimming pool, but many will.
I understand.
Thank you.
I mean, I think I would say to wrap up that these schools are often set in beautiful surroundings where there are lots of fields and so on where you can actually play. And therefore, we're not talking about in many cases, we're not talking about an urban school. Most of our schools are in the country. And that does have its other, there is another implication there, and that is that traveling to your school may require you to, it may require you to travel in various stages in order to get to your school, because it won't be right next to the airport. Ruslan,
Okay.
did you want to qualify that at all?
No, I think we're going to leave it there because we're going to have a clip of 1 hour and 15 minutes. So I think it's going to be good, I think, and plentiful for also other scholars that might watch it after today.
Okay. Of course, watch the recording. Okay, thank you very much, everybody. La vedere.
Thank you so much, Jonathan. Thank you for your time.
You're welcome. Cu plăcere.